Welcome, all pregnant families, midwives or birth workers. This is Tracy Anderson Askew, your host for the Transform Your Birth podcast, changing your mind about birth one story at a time. Each week we will be exploring a birth story through the lens of what birth can teach us. I'll be digging deep into each story so you can learn what it is that can change the way a birth unfolds. We can't control birth, but we can influence it. So listen in to find out how. Enjoy. Today I had a conversation with a mega parent of 8 children, a grandparent of 15 and a great-grandparent of 2. Her name is Penny. We discuss what new parents need and the role of grandparents. This episode will give you a great insight into how you might change when your baby lands and what your needs might be. It is a great episode worth sharing with emerging grandparents, as this role is vital and doesn't come with a handbook. And we've also attached a popular blog post from Transform Parenting, which might be useful. So go ahead, get comfortable, grab a cup of tea and enjoy.
Before we begin, a note from our sponsor. This episode has been brought to you by Transform Parenting, an organisation that provides courses, coaching and community from pregnancy through to the first 7 years of a child's life. Most of the stories you will hear through this podcast are graduates of the Transform Your Birth workshop held in Canberra. Our Transform Your Birth Today course is now available to anyone, anywhere, at any time, and includes all the wonderful wisdom of this course and live weekly catch-ups when you need it with our host, Tracy. For a little taste, please accept our pregnancy gift offer, which contains free the first few lessons and some essential wisdom for pregnancy. The link can be found in these show notes or visit transformyourbirth.com.au. And now for the episode.
Welcome everybody. It's the Transform Your Birth podcast, and with me today is the lovely Penny Beaumont. Now, this is an episode that's a little bit left of centre. I mean, I've been working with families for over 20 years, and not just for birth, but the period after birth. And I've watched a lot of families make that transition, and very much what we do here at Transform Parenting is set up a level of continuity of education, support and community for families all the way through, because when parenting happens, that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where support is really powerful. And having a bit of an understanding around what new parents need is really, really powerful. Now, one of the most popular blogs we've got on the Transform Parenting website is the grandparents blog, because what's happened over time is we've lost a lot of our traditions at such an important time in people's lives. I always call birth a rite of passage, but that transition into parenthood is just so very powerful. And as a result of that, grandparents or people who become grandparents don't always know and understand what their role is either. And this episode's a little bit about what new parents are going to need and the role of elders in that space, whether it be by blood or just by community. But having people around you, older people who can hold space for this transition, is really important. So with me today is one of the queen of I think she's the queen of grandmothers, because Penny has had 8 children and she's cracking on to her 16th grandchild. So if anybody knows what it's like to watch couples go through this space, it's lovely Penny. Welcome, Penny. Thank you for coming
Thank you.
on. So good to have you. I've had a few of Penny's children come through my classes, and Penny's often invited to be in the birth of her children, which shows me that Penny's got great wisdom and an ability to hold space and not make it about her, but to watch this beautiful transition coming into play. So Penny, tell us, to start with, you've had 8 babies. That's a lot. And
Yes.
I know that birth is different for everyone. Can you just tell us a little bit about what your birth journeys taught you about this particular time in your life?
I think if I bore it right down to the bottom, I think the birth journeys taught me about the depth of strength and connection to the power of the universe, I suppose, through birthing. I think that's that transformational experience. No matter how many children you have, it just builds deeper and deeper your connection to to community, your connection to your faith, your understanding of that it is more than just you on this
Yeah.
earth,
Yeah.
and about inviting in those little beings that come when they choose, and
Yeah.
being accepting of them and accepting of their process of birth, how
Mm.
they choose to birth as well,
Yeah.
as not just how I would want the birth to occur, but how they choose the birth to occur as well. So it's
Mm.
a joint partnership, and I guess I've learnt that having children is a joint partnership. Their
Mm.
soul and my soul choose, and we
Mm.
grow through that process together.
Yeah, it is very much a dance, isn't it, between the mother and the baby,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the extended family when that baby lands as well, because
Yes.
women are not giving birth to a piece of meat, they're giving birth to a human soul. And with that
Yeah.
comes a whole range of different experiences. That's why every birth is so different. I imagine
Yes.
every one of your births was different.
Well, I had 4 in hospital and 4 at home.
Yeah.
So I think my home births is where I really learned about the depth of power
Mm.
within me. But I think that my deepest birth would have been my 6th child, Levi,
Mm.
um, where I went into a real place of fear.
Right.
And later and then I remember my doula getting right down in my face and saying to me, "Are you afraid?" And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, yes, I'm so scared." Where
Mm.
I've never been felt before then, and after my other births, I never felt that fear. And I realized that I felt totally alone
Mm.
in that moment. And she just said, "It's all right. I'm here." And she just kept looking into my eyes.
Mm.
And I remember thinking that this is the most profound gift that anyone could give.
Mm.
And so for me, I've been able to give that at times when required, when needed, when I felt that it was really needed, to my daughters or daughter-in-laws or anyone else that I've been helping in their birth experience. Because for me, it was a journey of um, digging deep into myself and seeing what foundation did I actually have.
Mm.
And in that birth, I didn't have any foundation, I realized.
Yeah.
And so then it made me question looking at my whole life, my relationship with
Mm.
my partner, um, all my other children who were there, how I wanted my life to go moving forward. So that
Mm.
was pretty profound.
Wow, I love how you've brought that up. Even with your 6th child, you learned something quite profound. I had, she's passed now, my dear Auntie Robin. She had 15 children. And
Mm,
of course, when you become a childbirth educator, you always want to chat to your auntie who's had 15 children. Anybody who's had a lot of children is really interesting to talk to. And of course, she said every one of her births were different. And that surprised me because I thought, surely after 6 or 7, they'd all be a bit the same, like your body wouldn't have much resistance. It's very practiced at letting go and opening. But she talked about the journey of her pregnancy. The type
mm,
of birth that she had was very
yeah,
symbolic of the nature of that child.
absolutely.
Yeah, and she believed that the journey of pregnancy and birth is preparing you to be ready for that child. And when she said that, I had this big feeling in my gut. And then I reflected back on my own 4 births, and went, oh my God, that's so true. I could make the connections between what was going on in the birth to the nature of the child and the journey that I've had in parenting them. Is that something you relate to?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and um, each pregnancy is different in the
Mm.
sense that each baby does different things. They're
Yeah.
sensitive to different things. Like, in particular, well, that 6th child was very sensitive to noise.
Mm.
So he'd jump if there was anything too loud.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, this baby's really sensitive to noise. This one doesn't like, one likes quiet and peace.
Mm.
And it's very intuitive, that child as well. So each pregnancy, I get to know and understand, and I guess that's the privilege of having a lot of pregnancies,
Mm,
birthing a lot of babies, is that I get to understand the baby more as I go along,
mm,
before they're delivered even. And
yeah,
then when they're delivered, I go, "Oh, of course." And then the process of how they even behave for the first few days. Sometimes they're, I call it the betwixt and between.
yeah,
Sometimes they're not quite ready and they're
yeah,
not sure that they're actually here.
yeah,
They don't want to be here, some of them,
yeah,
and you have to nurture them into being here.
yeah.
So
Very,
it's just, yeah. And I
very
think
so
also
much intelligence.
what's happening in your life as well
Mm,
while you're, first of all, how you're conceived and what's happening in your life, and then your birth, and then what's happening in your life after, and the raising of that child. It just all comes into this whole big conglomeration of like, oh, I see you. I
mm,
know why you chose to be here
mm,
this time. I know why I call for you.
mm,
So and I needed to learn ABC, you know,
mm.
from you.
You can
And
make
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
And watching them as adults and have their own children has been a profound gift in a sense.
Mm,
Like me being able to see the second generation and the third now, because I've got two great grandchildren as well. So being able to watch that process occur, and like I can see the generational lines unfolding as they nurture and as they grow and say, I will not comply to what was. I will
mm,
change what is now, you
mm.
know. And so, and I, that's just, oh, it's mind blowing, the experience for me.
I love how you've been able to, because you've watched it so much, to make those connections. Because I tend to think we just think, okay, pregnancy is pregnancy and birth is birth and parenting is parenting, and we have different caregivers for all of those things, and we think they're separate journeys, but they're not. They're a path, and that's something I've
Yeah.
observed too. Is you can see the intelligence of the system, you can see the intelligence of the path, you can watch the transformation of the mother and her significant other, or her
Yeah.
community. You watch these transformations unfold, and you can see the wisdom of life teaching you
Mm,
what you need to become in order to continue to evolve. And I like to think we're all on an upward spiral. We're all here to
mm,
learn, grow, get bigger, become less about me and more about we. Start to step into sacrificing of the self to a much bigger order and a bigger thing. For those who are listening, I want to you just right now to just reflect if you're pregnant, or if you've had babies, or if you're just a birth nerd, like, because I know a lot of birth nerds out there listening as well, but even thinking about your journey into the world. I want you to think about this baby, this pregnancy. What is this baby telling you already? What little things have you tuned into about this baby? What sort of sensitivities have you had around your pregnancy with this baby? It's a really interesting thing to reflect on, and to remember that there's already stuff going on between you and this baby long before they land. I certainly remember having a real inclination with each baby that I had that they were different. Pregnancy's different
mm,
and
mm.
baby's different. And you can pick up on that stuff now. So, Penny, you've watched a lot of your own children, and no doubt other people you've supported, become parents. What do you think is important for pregnant couples to know about what their needs might be on the other side when the baby lands?
I think the greatest need is to be nurtured in a respectful way,
Mm,
and for to clearly, for them to clearly know how they want others to respond to them,
yeah.
and how they know what their expectations are of others and what their needs will be and how they want those needs met.
Mm,
I think we don't think through, oh, if mum comes over, what do I want mum to do? How do
mm,
I want mum to be? How do I want to feel when she's in my space? Um, and I guess that challenges our relationships with our parent or main caregivers as growing up. So that's a whole nother scenario,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole nother layer. But I think as parents coming into being parent for the first time or for the fifth time, you
Mm,
know, what do I want to happen after this or during my labor? If I want them near me, do I want them? Do I not? If I do, what's my expectation of them? What boundaries do I have? I think that they need to be clearly set and discussed with
mm,
the parents and parent-in-laws
yeah.
and others, aunties and uncles, and
Mm,
you know, so that no one's like, oh, oh, and no one's offended. They might be a little offended. So, but you, I think it needs to. I think you need to have a clear understanding of what you want
mm,
and
mm,
how you want it to look, as much as you can understand, because like every baby's going to be different, every labor's going to be different.
yeah.
So, but you know, basic ground rules about how you would like it to look.
And that's not always easy to know
No.
because the person you are prior to the baby landing is very different to the person you are when the baby lands. And your needs,
Absolutely.
I remember with my first, prior to having my children, I was off doing life. I was independent. I didn't think twice about my mother and her needs or what. But I was stunned how much I wanted my mother when I became a parent. And it changed that dynamic. And my mother just rose. She was amazing and really, really helpful. But it was a real surprise to me about how that relationship got changed when I became a mother.
Yeah, because I don't think we really understand that when you become a mother, your mother becomes a grandmother
Yeah.
and your father becomes a grandfather,
Mm,
etc., etc. And your sisters and brothers become aunties and uncles. And it actually is a massive change for all of them as well.
yeah.
It's a huge shift for everyone. I mean, I don't think I think we totally underestimate the shifting
Yeah.
of everyone's, and everyone's relationship is, I call it like the rejigging of everyone.
Mm,
Like everyone has to find their new normal, their new way of relating
yeah.
to you as a new mother or the new father, the in-laws, with you, and even as grandparents, how do you relate to the other grandparents?
Mm, yeah.
And, you know, like, who are you now as a grandparent? And also your identity is shifted as you become a grandparent, because you're no longer just such and such as mum.
Mm,
You're now such and such as grandmother as well.
yeah.
So what's your expectations of yourself as a grandparent? How do
Mm,
you want that to unfold in your own life? Or do you want it to unfold in your own life?
mm.
Um,
And that doesn't come with a rule book. And that's why this sort of a conversation is really important. And that's why the grandparents blog is so popular, I think, because a lot of my families send it off and use it as a catalyst to have conversations about life on
mm,
the other side with the newborn. So let me just paint a little bit of a picture for those listening. When you're pregnant, your amygdala, which is the part that registers threat in your brain, gets bigger. So you start to become, you're being primed to become hypervigilant around that baby, which
mhm.
means when the baby lands, you're very sensitive. Now, this was a shock to me. I was Miss Social, and when I had Sam, I thought he was the most beautiful baby that had ever landed. I'm sorry, people, but I had the most beautiful baby, at least in my head. And I wanted to share it with everybody. I had an open door policy. And by about day 3, my midwife said, "You got to stop this." And she was so right. I was so strung out
Mm,
because I just didn't realize how people I was very close to, all of a sudden, I was wanting to just say, "Get out of my space. Like, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too
mm,
insensitive to my sensitivity." And I needed somebody to help me read what I was feeling but didn't have language for, is this extra sensitivity. So knowing that, Penny, and having a grandparent come into the space of a new parent, what sort of advice would you give to grandparents with a brand new parent straight off out of the birthing space?
the best advice I suppose I could give is to read the room.
Read the room. Good advice. Yeah. Bit of situational awareness never goes astray.
Yeah, like if you walk in, say if you walk in to visit for the first time, all you really want to do is grab hold of that baby, and that's the last thing you need to do.
Yeah, nice. Tell us more
Um,
about that.
and I think, pacing yourself, waiting to be welcomed in,
Mm,
and especially waiting for them to say, "Would you like to hold the baby?"
mm,
Um, Sometimes I'll never say, "Do you want to hold the baby?" until they, whatever.
yeah.
Some of them hardly ever want you to hold the baby.
Mm,
But, like just to be sensitive and respectful. And I guess it is really read the room.
yeah.
What is going on here? What's the vibe? What's the feeling? What's
Yeah.
my intuition telling me? Is my heart space open as I come into this space? And
Mm,
am I intuitively listening to what is needed?
mm,
And whatever is needed, I do or don't do. I mean, whatever is needed means that I need to do something or I don't need to do anything.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
may just need to sit in the space with them and be loving.
Mm,
I may need to vacuum the floor. I
mm.
may need to, oh, whatever is
Be-
required, I need to do and
mm,
be ready for that.
yeah.
With no expectations of myself.
Yeah. So you've described here, and this is eldership. Eldership is wisdom. It comes, and this is renewed wisdom. You're moving into a different generation.
Mm,
And it's not about you. It's not about the grandparents, even though, and I know this will happen to me one day. I'm not a grandparent yet, but even though when your child has a child, that's your child. Like you feel very strongly towards
absolutely, you do.
that new child. And that's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely a privilege to watch life come in where you get all the fun and none of the responsibility, and watching, but more importantly, it's not just the birth of a baby, it's the birth of a family. So
Yeah.
your children have become the mother and the father, and that process of maturation is exquisite to watch the changes, and you can see the
Mm.
fruits of your own labor start to come out.
Yes, and I think we're guardians as a grandparent. For
Nice
me,
word.
it's
Yeah.
guardianship.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Guarding the space.
guarding the space,
Yeah.
holding space for them, guarding the space from energies that are not going to be useful,
Yeah.
and not going to be nurturing.
Mm,
And I think that is the role of a grandparent forever,
mm,
is guardianship.
yeah.
Like it's like visiting your family and you haven't seen the grandchildren for 6 months or something, and you go in and observe what's
Mm,
going on.
mm,
Like, okay, this child's not this and this child's that, and this couple, they need some space or they need nurture or they're fine, and I think that's our role
yeah.
as grandparents, is to guard and to nurture the relationship between your child and their partner,
Mm,
and to by nurturing them is to give them space
mm-hmm.
to become and grow into, or and continue to grow, because when their children become teenagers, then there's a whole nother level of growth they need to achieve in their relationship and in their own personal lives. And it's
Mm.
just yeah, we
Ongoing,
need to be
isn't it?
guardians.
I love that word, guardianship. So it's not about the grandparents, it's about the new family.
Mm,
Coming in, taking babies away from the mother, and I've heard so many mothers in the new mothers groups talk about these issues when people walk in, they say, "Oh, give me the baby." They just
mm-hmm.
demand the baby, and then they grab the baby and they walk away from the new mother. Never,
Yes.
ever do that. If you're
No.
going to be with the baby, be close to the new mother, because she's gifted you with the privilege of holding a new.
Yes. Like when they say, would you like to hold the baby? I sit down beside them and hold the baby
Exactly. Yeah.
because I remember the feeling of like, where's my baby? They're taking my baby away.
And it can be very unconscious. People who've had new babies, they don't realize why they're feeling like that, but it's completely appropriate and in line with your biological changes. You
Mm-hmm.
become hypervigilant around your baby and even your own mother. Now, my mother was always able to be around me, and she could take the baby away. It was fine because
Mm,
there was just something about my mother that was very safe for me. But that's not the case in all relationships, and it's
mm,
important to sort of understand what it is that you're seeing is the emergence of this new family and to really respect their process. Another thing I think is important for grandparents and anybody around the new parents is to not give advice. What do you think about that? God, it's the biggest
oh,
pitfall, and and we all fall into the trap a little.
oh, um, sometimes I got little things that, put booties on the baby, their feet will be cold. But that's just my own little thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
I have to go, they're going to do it their way.
yeah.
But it's really, you have to just so often just close your mouth
Mm,
because this is not, they've got to discover their own way with this child and
yeah.
their own journey. And I guess that's what I said about being respectful,
Mm,
so giving advice only when asked
yeah,
and or asking questions that may lead them to ask for some advice if you are really concerned about something.
yeah, yeah.
Like sometimes I might see something generally that might be a little concerning to me, and I force myself not to say, whoa, no, whoa, which I really want to say.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just ask some questions. Oh, if you did it this way, maybe would that, I don't know, maybe this baby would like that. Or what do you think? What do you think could help? Or
So
what do you
that's
think?
like offering thought, but it's
Yes.
different to your baby's tired. You need to do that.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
because what gets translated to the new mother is, I'm not doing a good job.
Yes.
And here's the thing, when you have a new baby, I don't care how many babies you've had, it is a learning process to get to know
Mm,
this
yes.
baby's cues. And it's very difficult for you to read your baby when you've got people offering thoughts about what they think it is.
Yeah.
And they might be right, or they might not be. But
Yes.
you tend to think they're right, and they can be completely off track because this is a
Yeah.
totally different baby. And a lot of
Absolutely.
grandparents haven't been around babies for a long time, not all, but a lot of them haven't. And as a result of that, they assume they know more than what they actually do. But it is a dance between the parents and the baby, and the baby is continually communicating. And the job of the parent is to learn the language of the baby. But they can't do that if they've got people around them saying, do this, do that. Mm.
And the job of the grandparents is also to learn the language of the mother and the baby.
Yeah, nice.
That's not just about the baby for the grandparent, it's about the mother and the baby.
Yeah.
So um, when when this happens, oh, this happens with the baby usually.
Mm.
Like, and just get to understand her own journey as a mother,
Mm.
which is massive, and how she's managing that for herself
Yeah.
and what else she may need. Because
Mm.
it's really not about the baby. If
Yeah.
the mother's okay, if the mother's growing and in a safe space and being nurtured and
Mhm.
supported in every way, then the baby's going to be fine.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
they're going to do it their way and
Mm.
in their time. Um, but also, every grandparent needs to learn that what that baby is too, what
Mm.
that baby feels and experiences. And that's also not just the mother's thing, the grandparent needs to learn it as well. So that's that sitting back and observing and watching and being present in the space and
Mm.
being present to that baby, especially when you're holding it, when you've been given the privilege of holding that baby, to
Mm.
be present to that baby and what that baby's needs are.
Mm.
And as a older person, or a person who's held babies a little bit more than a new mother, just the ability to be able to read a baby is very deep, I think.
Mm.
And I don't think I think we underestimate that.
Mm. No, I like you've said that. We use the word attunement around
Mm,
attuning to the baby, which is
mm,
being able to read. I often highlight to pregnant women, we tease pregnant women about the fact that they've got baby brain. They can't think, and their logical brain's sort of going offline, and then they're more emotional. They cry at TV,
mhm.
at commercials, or they,
Yes,
they get upset more easily. And I say, look at the intelligence of what's happening. Your intellect's being turned down, but your emotional intelligence is being turned up,
absolutely.
helping you to be able to attune to your baby, because your baby needs you to feel what they need rather than think what they need. It's a very different capability that we have, is that intuitive knowingness of, oh, that means this. Not
Mm,
the, oh, I fed you, I've done this, I've done that, and the
yes,
book said, and the match nurse said, and blah, blah, and you're going through that thinking part of your brain.
yeah,
That's not the part that will get the
no,
answers. The part that gets the answers it's a more of a feeling sense, and it's a hit, and it's an instant thing. And it comes with experience, it comes with getting it wrong to work out what's
yes,
right. It's trial and error for a while,
yeah,
and course correction. But it's that process of feeling and attunement is the key. And I think when it comes to any child, it's the same thing. Like young children, toddlers, they all need us to attune and to feel what it is that they're experiencing in order to understand what is their behavior telling you.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think grandparents, um, that's a major role for a grandparent,
Mm.
is to be attuned to the baby and the mother, but
Yeah.
probably mostly the mother.
Yeah. And
You know,
and the other parent too, depending on, like, I'm going to be
absolutely.
mother of sons, so I'll be watching my.
Yes. Well, my three sons, I've been uh, two of their home births, one anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
So just being attuned to them becoming fathers.
yeah. Tell me about that. What do you think their needs are, and how
Oh,
different?
their needs are really different. They're real guardians.
Mm,
They're warriors
mm,
for her, for their partner, the mother of their baby.
mm.
And I see them
The
as
gatekeeper.
what they're real guardians. Yeah, real ice warriors, actually. That's what they are. They're warriors. And they're the protectors, not just in the birth, or not just the pregnancy and the birth, but after. They're
Mm,
the guardians of the house. They're the warriors for her. They can speak for her, they can hold space for her.
mm,
They're the ones she can lean on. That's what I see with my sons as they mature into their full, as they sort of blossom and mature into their full fatherhood,
mm.
they become real um, warriors standing strong for her to lean on.
Yeah.
And I think, and then of course they build their relationship with their baby, but their first goal is to be her guardian.
Mm, yeah.
Because
And that would be
again, if
true
their
for
mother,
same-sex couples as well, Penny, wouldn't it?
well, yeah, the
I've watched it play out. Yeah.
whoever it is the guardian, or the partner is the guardian
Yeah.
and the warrior for the mother,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that's their role.
Mm.
And I
So you
think,
as a grandparent of them, what was the difference between you supporting your sons to your daughters?
um, my daughters, it was more heart connection, like um, it was heart for both of them. Oh, that's a really good question. There's a massive difference. With my daughters, I feel all their feelings much more as a female,
Mhm.
and as I birthed as well, so I got that. But with my sons, it's a heart connection, but I would just I'm separate in the sense that I don't know how that feels, to be a partner of someone who's birthed. Um, but I think it's still the same about nurturing and loving and growing them as well. But it just is, it is a different feeling. And I remember in my daughter's labours, sometimes wanting to go in and fix, because a mother's supposed to make it all right. And we're always supposed to be able to help our child, especially our daughter when she's in pain and you're in the same situation. You remember, but you have to step back and go, the best thing I can do for this child, and it applies to both sons and daughters, the best thing I can do is stand back and be the warrior for this, be the guardian here for both of them, that they move into their full power, their full strength.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I remember my first grandchild being born, and when she was first in labour, her saying, "Oh, mum, help me." And I was just like, "Oh, I just
Yeah.
want to help her. I've got to fix this. I've got to stop this from happening." And then I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
It's
That
a
would be the
turn.
worst thing I could do right now.
You
It's
don't
like
want to
panic and go into her like, "It's okay, I'll fix it." I was like, no, I got to stand present and strong
yeah,
here,
yeah. And
you know?
believe she can get through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's holding space and not
Yes.
making yourself the hero of her journey. And that's where
Absolutely.
I think people can get a little bit caught when supporting new parents. They come in and they want to, guide the new mother, and I've got experience and I'll tell you how this works, and
But
and
then we think,
not what she needs.
yeah, and who are we to think that we're more insightful or we
Yeah.
have more knowledge? That's no, we
That's an
don't.
ego trip in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of ego attached to being a grandparent, let me tell you.
Well,
You know,
that's why this conversation is important, because we want to really invite those listening, particularly if you are becoming a grandparent and this is your path, to really appreciate there's this movement up the generation chain, which means role is very, very different.
yes,
You don't want to make yourself front and center. You don't want to be the person who gives advice all the time and becomes the
mm,
of all knowledge and creates dependency or resistance, because one or two
yes,
of those things will happen.
yes,
And to really hold space and believe that the new parents will find their way and keep reassuring them,
yeah,
you do great. I've got this beautiful friend who I'm very close to, and I've watched her become a grandparent. Of course, she talked to me about this particular topic, and I've watched her just do this so beautifully. And when her daughter asks her for advice, she still often says, well, darling, there's a few ideas here. This is what
yeah,
I might have done, but it's a different baby, different time. I reckon you've got this. I reckon you'll work
mm,
this out. She
mm,
kept reinforcing the mother's capability to find her answers. And as a result of that, the daughter keeps coming to her for
mm,
guidance and support and nourishment. And I think what that highlighted to me is that's what we need as new parents. We need nourishment from our parents.
absolutely.
We need to put our head in their lap and they stroke our head and tell us we're doing a good job, and
Yeah,
to say, I've got a sore fanny today, and
yes,
and I really want some food, Mum. Can you get me some food? Or
yes,
what
absolutely.
it's like for you. So it is a really tender time, and
Mm,
it's fertile soil for beautiful growth
mm.
and transformation in both roles.
Mm. And
Yeah.
I also think that as a grandparent, we nurtured and raised our children to be independent,
Hmm.
um,
Hopefully.
to know themselves and to grow and
Yeah.
change. And as a grandparent, our job still is the same,
Yeah.
to
Right.
nurture the mother and the new family in the same way.
Mm.
It's no different. It's just a different
Phase.
phase. You
Mm.
know, you're still nurturing that family, you're still nurturing that mother, you're still nurturing that relationship that they've got in the partners, how they want to build their family. You're nurturing all of that,
Mm.
just as you nurtured your own child. And
Mm.
if you then there's a whole nother set of issues as a grandparent, is if you feel like you didn't do a good enough job,
Mm.
then there can be a whole nother layer of problems within yourself about, I'll be a better grandparent than I was a mother. Ugh, that's a whole nother
Well,
rabbit hole.
it's a chance to have another crack at it, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely
Because
is.
none of us are perfect parents.
No.
And you'll always have times where you'll think, oh gosh, I wish I had done that differently, or I'd do that differently in hindsight.
Yep.
But life gives you the opportunity to redo that as a grandparent. I
It
think
does.
that's the beauty.
Absolutely, it does. And to build a stronger relationship with your child, male or female,
Yeah.
to build a really deep relationship with them, with which is respectful as two adults.
Yeah.
It's a whole different
Mm.
relationship, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it.
Mm. So, my darlings, I hope this has been a good episode to give you a bit of an insight as to what you might need on the other side. Whether you've got grandparents around you or far away, or you don't have grandparents and you need to create other people around you through this time, it's not a job to be done alone. It'll give you a bit of an insight as to what your needs might be, and to recognize that this is a very, very clear time of transformation and change. And what your relationships look like pre-birth and pre-pregnancy can look very, very different on the other side. But that's what life is. It's really about inviting us to change and grow all the time through all of these different phases that we've got. And Penny's highlighted some beautiful little tips and understandings around what these phases are about and how to do it well. And I think Penny's, I have no doubt, made a few mistakes and course corrected in her journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, share her wisdom with us today. Is there anything else you want to finish with, Penny?
I just want to finish with, I guess, what we just said at the end just then before about as a mother, you nurtured your child. So as a grandmother, you nurture your child's family, and you nurture them as they grow their own family and their own children and build their own life and as adults. And I just love that, to watch that journey unfold.
Yeah.
And to be a privilege to be a part of it, to be allowed to be a part of that. And I've worked hard to build that relationship with my children, and it's really healing for me from where I didn't get it right when they were little, and when they were growing up. And so now I can give what I can to help heal myself and them. That's really beautiful.
Beautiful.
Second chance in life.
Yeah, nice. Well, I hope that's been useful for you. These are precious times, tender times, and here at Transform Parenting, we do our best to support families all the way through, not just for the birth. We're not just about our birth course, although the birth course is there for you to avail yourself to. It's the Transform Your Birth course. It's a wonderful, I guess, formula to help you to make the changes you need to make to be able to birth confidently under all circumstances. And it also comes with regular catch-ups, weekly catch-ups with our pregnant couples, just to make sure they're on track, as well as when the baby lands. So there's lots of goodness to be had. We'll post the grandparents blog link as well to this episode. I think that could be useful. It can be a great thing to share with people in your community. And we will be back again next week with another wonderful birth story. Thanks again for listening, people. Have a great week. Bye for now.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe and share this podcast. This episode has been brought to you by Transform Parenting, an organisation that provides courses, coaching and community from pregnancy through to the first 7 years of a child's life. It is a place where you can learn, get support and grow into your role as a parent. Why not take advantage of a special gift for all pregnant women at transformyourbirth.com.au. Or if you have children, we have a gift for parents also.